What if I told you that one of the most misunderstood men in history didn't set out to be feared, but simply to be heard? That the same man whose name has become synonymous with deceit, manipulation, and tyranny may actually have been a patriot, a realist, and perhaps even a visionary? Enter Niccolò Machiavelli, the man who dared to write what others only whispered. But who was he really? A cold-hearted cynic, a shrewd realist, or a political prophet ahead of his time? Welcome to the unfolding journey, where we peel back the layers of time to explore the stories, ideas, and characters that have shaped the world we live in today. If you're passionate about history, philosophy, and the great debates of human nature, you're in the right place. Every week, we dive deep into the past, not just to remember, but to understand. So, grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's uncover the many faces of Niccolò Machiavelli, the man behind the name. Niccolò Machiavelli was born in 1469 in Florence, Italy, a city-state teeming with artistic genius, political intrigue, and constant power struggles. Living in a turbulent time of shifting alliances, foreign invasions, and internal revolts, Machiavelli had a front-row seat to the chaos that defined Renaissance Italy. From 1498 to 1512, he served as a diplomat and senior official in the Florentine Republic. He engaged with powerful figures like Cesare Borgia, Pope Julius II, and King Louis XII of France. These experiences, raw, intense, and often ruthless, shaped his understanding of power, politics, and human behavior. But Machiavelli's career came to a screeching halt when the Medici family returned to power. He was arrested, tortured, and exiled from public life. It was during this forced retirement that he wrote his most famous and controversial work, The Prince. And that's where the myth begins. Machiavelli the Cynic, the legacy of the Prince. The Prince, written in 1513, is often described as a handbook for tyrants. It advises rulers to prioritize power over morality, urging them to lie, deceive, and manipulate if necessary. Machiavelli famously declares that it is better for a ruler to be feared than loved, if he cannot be both. To many readers, these ideas reek of cynicism. They paint a dark view of humanity. People are fickle, selfish, and easily manipulated. The ruler, therefore, must be prepared to use any means necessary to maintain control. And this is how the term Machiavellian entered the modern lexicon, defined as cunning, scheming, and unscrupulous. It's why Machiavelli is often portrayed as a villainous figure, a man who gave moral permission to tyrants. But was that his true intention? Machiavelli the Realist, describing the world as it is. Let's take a step back. Machiavelli was a product of his time, a time when Italy was fragmented, vulnerable to foreign invasion, and plagued by internal corruption. He wasn't dreaming up horrors in a vacuum. He was responding to the brutal political reality around him. What sets Machiavelli apart from earlier thinkers like Plato or Augustine is his refusal to imagine a perfect world. He didn't want to write about ideal republics or celestial virtues. He wanted to study power as it really worked, not as it should work. In that light, The Prince reads less like a villain's manifesto and more like a manual of survival. It's a work of realism, not amorality. It says, if you want to govern effectively in this chaotic world, you must understand human nature. Not as poets describe it, but as history reveals it. This perspective aligns Machiavelli with realists in international relations, like Thomas Hobbes or even modern-day political analysts. He strips away illusions and urges rulers to ground their decisions in practicality. One could say Machiavelli didn't corrupt politics, he exposed it. Machiavelli the visionary, defender of Republican liberty? And here's the twist. The Prince is just one part of Machiavelli's writing. In his Discourses on Livy, a lesser-known but equally important work, Machiavelli sings the praises of Republican government. He advocates for checks and balances, citizen participation, and the rule of law. He criticizes corruption and argues that freedom, not tyranny, is the source of a strong state. This Machiavelli is harder to reconcile with the cold strategist of The Prince, but it suggests something deeper. Perhaps The Prince was not a standalone treatise, but part of a larger political philosophy. Some scholars argue that Machiavelli wrote The Prince to curry favor with the Medici and return to political life. Others see it as a kind of satire, an exaggerated portrayal meant to provoke thought rather than direct imitation. And some, like political theorist Isaiah Berlin, see him as the first true pluralist, Someone who recognized that values like liberty, order, justice, and power often clash, and that politics is the art of balancing them. In this view, Machiavelli was a visionary. He laid the groundwork for modern political science by acknowledging the complexity of governance and the impossibility of moral purity in public life. The myth and the man. Why, then, has Machiavelli been so misunderstood? Part of the answer lies in timing. The Prince was published posthumously in 1532, during a time of religious upheaval. To the Catholic Church and its defenders, Machiavelli's ideas seemed godless. The Church banned his works, branding him a teacher of evil. Later, Enlightenment thinkers picked him up again. Some, like Voltaire, admired his honesty. Others saw him as the dark mirror of politics. Over time, the myth grew, overshadowing the man. But if we look closely, we see someone far more nuanced. A man trying to rescue his country from chaos, a writer grappling with the eternal tensions of power and principle, a thinker who dared to write not what we wish were true, but what too often is. Why Machiavelli still matters today. So why does Machiavelli matter now, 500 years later? Because we still struggle with the same questions. Should leaders tell the truth, even if it weakens them? Can morality survive in the jungle of politics? Is compromise a betrayal or a necessity? What's the cost of maintaining power? And is it better to be feared than loved? From political campaigns to corporate boardrooms, from diplomacy to social movements, Machiavelli's fingerprints are everywhere. Whether you admire or abhor his ideas, ignoring them leaves you vulnerable to those who don't. He reminds us that politics is messy, humans are flawed, and sometimes doing the right thing might look a lot like doing the wrong thing, for the right reasons. Final verdict: realist, cynic, or visionary? So, who is Niccolò Machiavelli? Was he a cynic, disgusted with humanity and bent on spreading ruthlessness? A realist, stripping politics of its illusions and revealing the gears beneath? Or a visionary, anticipating the complexities of modern governance centuries before his time? In truth, he was all three, and perhaps something more. He was a thinker who saw the world clearly, even when others preferred to look away. He dared to describe power as it was used, not as it should be used. And in doing so, he forced us to confront the uncomfortable truths about leadership, morality, and the human condition. Niccolò Machiavelli didn't write to seduce tyrants. He wrote to wake us up. If this journey through the life and legacy of Machiavelli sparked your curiosity, imagine what else history has to offer. Here on The Unfolding Journey, we're just getting started. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon so you never miss an episode, and drop a comment below. Do you think Machiavelli was a realist, a cynic, or a visionary? We'd love to hear your take. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay curious.